Welcome to NACTV Reads the Neepawa Press. My name is Christine Waddell, and I am one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. You may be joining us online, Neepawa Access Live, WCG 12, Channel 30 Direct Sightline, MTS, or Bell Express View. These broadcasts are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, and donations by viewers like yourself. If you enjoy what you see and hear, please consider supporting us by a donation or by volunteering, and you can contact Nikki at our office at 476-2639 or NACTV at wcgwave.ca, and our office is open from 9 till 4 Monday to Thursday, and you can leave a message. So we appreciate if you do that. Now, what's in the Neepawa Press this week? March 15th, 2017. High Life earns national recognition by Kate Jackman Atkinson. A local employer has received national recognition for their work hiring newcomers. With a workforce that's almost half immigrants, Neepawa-based High Life Foods LP was recognized last week by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. On March 8th, representatives from the pork processing company traveled to Ottawa to receive their 2017 Employer Awards for newcomer employment. Out of 47 nominees from across Canada, High Life was one of 3 award recipients. Jeremy Jansen, Senior Director of Human Resources at High Life Limited, High Life Foods parent company, said they were honored to accept the award. He explained, we accept this award on behalf of all of our employees and on behalf of the communities we work in. Being located in rural areas of Western Canada, we enjoy access to some of the best and brightest Canadians. We also have the opportunity to employ people at all levels from throughout the world. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Minister Ahmed Hussein congratulated the company for their work helping newcomers to Canada find and retain jobs and enhance their employment skills. I am beyond impressed by the initiative that High Life Foods LP has taken in ensuring that such a significant portion of its workforce consists of immigrants. Companies like High Life Foods LP are role models for others and show how important the role of employers is in the lives of newcomers, said Hussein. The annual awards recognize the efforts of local businesses to improve the labor market attachment and integration of newcomers across Canada. The winning organizations help reduce the barriers faced by newcomers in entering the labor market and improve their overall settlement in Canada. Jessica Martins, immigration case manager at High Life Foods, said that the company began recruiting workers from the Philippines, Ukraine, Ireland, and Korea in 2008. We began dipping our toe in, she explained. In 2012, the plant expanded and the company ramped up its overseas recruitment to help staff the new second shift. With such a large demand for workers, Martins explains that they couldn't find the staff in Canada. High Life Foods currently employs about 1,250 people, approximately 50% of whom are permanent residents or on the path to permanent resident status. In March 2015, the company's immigration services were spun off from the general human resources function to better focus on the needs of the plant's immigrant workers. Most of the workers come to Canada specifically to begin work at the plant, and some of the newcomers in the first group have obtained their citizenship, Martin said. To see the workers come as temporary foreign workers and progress through to becoming Canadian citizens is exciting. It is so rewarding, she explained. Martins explained that there are also about 400 workers who are permanent residents, a status which allows them to be reunited with their families in Canada. It's one of the most exciting parts of my position. High Life was nominated for the award by Neepawa and Area Immigrant Settlement Services. Don Walmsley, Settlement Services Coordinator with NAISS, said they immediately thought of the company when they heard about the awards. And before I can go to the last part of the story, there is a photograph that shows them on March 8th. Representatives from Neepawa-based High Life Foods LP received the 2017 Employer Awards for Newcomer Employment. They were one of 3 Canadian companies recognized with the National Award presented by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. From left, Karine Prince, Director General, Integration Division, IRCC, Jeremy Jansen, Senior Director of Human Resources, High Life Limited, and Jessica Martins, Immigration Case Manager, High Life Foods LP. Honorable Ahmad D. Hussain, Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada. And so continuing on page 4, without newcomers, High Life wouldn't be where we are. Walmsley added that they were quite happy to put forward High Life's name, noting that not only does the company recruit and employ a significant number of immigrants, they are also supportive of the workers. Martins explained that the support begins at departure from their home country and continues through to citizenship. The company provides airfare, meets the newcomers at the Winnipeg airport, arranges transportation to Neepawa, arranges accommodation, and helps them get settled into their new homes. For the first month, High Life covers the employees' rent and transportation to and from work. The company also hosts a 2-day settlement orientation, helping the newcomers obtain their SIN numbers and introducing them to aspects of Canadian life, such as healthcare, banking, service providers, laws, and stress management. Martin said they try to prepare the workers so that there are no surprises. We're 100% supportive. The winners were announced at the 2017 Employer Council of Champions Summit, which was organized by Hire Immigrants Ottawa. The event brought together business, government, and civic leaders to discuss the effective integration of refugees and immigrants into the labor force and to celebrate employer excellence. Ensuring a successful experience for both the newcomers and the employers is a team effort with the potential for great rewards. Without the newcomers, High Life wouldn't be where we are today. They're part of the High Life family, said Martins. With the help of the federal government, including IRCC and Employment and Social Development Canada, ESDC, as well as the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program and the Settlement Services offices, we have the privilege of walking alongside these newcomers as they become permanent residents and citizens. High Life is excited to be part of Canada building as we continue to grow the diversity of our workforce, business, and communities, explained Jansen. So that's a major award presented to one of our major employers in Neepawa. That was continued on page 4, and I will finish page 4 with the story by Rick Sparlings, Where Are They Now? And this week he has the 1956-57 Tom Thumb District Champs. And we'll read who's in the picture first of all. 1956-57 Tom Thumb District Champions in the back row, Ray Sims, coach, Barry Devison, Ron Clevin, Ray Crabb, Leonard Wabick, Ed Ferns, Lawrence Hyra, Dennis Foley, Homer Gill, manager, In the middle row, Wayne Griffith, Vic Kostenchuk, Cam Smith, John Burney, Gaynor Vivian, Glenn McLaughlin, and in the front, Jack Tremaine, Stick Boy, Richard Sparling, Billy Crooks, Stick Boy, Rick Howden, and Ron Bell. So where are they now? Ray Sims taught school in the Neepawa area and was a pitcher for the Neepawa Cubs in the golden age of baseball. Ray married Joyce Pruss. He unfortunately passed away in 2014. Barry Devison married Joan Basham in 1970. They had one child and have one grandson. Barry operated a Gulf Petro-Canada service station for 35 years and worked for Integra Auto Center and Tires in semi-retirement and fully retired in 2015. He spends much of his summer months honing his golf skills at Rossmere. Barry and Joan reside in Winnipeg. Ron Cleven married Ruth Roger, and they have 2 boys and 4 grandchildren. Ron worked for Bristol Aerospace until 2003, 36 and a half years, at which time he retired. Ron's hobbies include golf, biking, and cheering on the Winnipeg Jets. Ron and Ruth live in Winnipeg. Ray Crabb joined the military immediately after finishing grade 12 and spent 40 years in various roles and command appointments throughout Canada and the world. He was posted in 6 of the 10 provinces and served in the USA, Germany, Cyprus, and the Balkan War. He retired in 1988 as a general and lives at East St. Paul. He operated a small consulting business for a few years and has retired there with his wife, Brenda Freeman. They have 2 children and 4 grandkids. Leonard Wabick moved from Neepawa when he was about 13 years old into Winnipeg and then to Calgary in 1976, where he worked for Reynolds Aluminum for 28 years. In semi-retirement, he worked as a project manager part-time. He married Jan Bindas, and they are approaching their 50th anniversary. They have 3 boys and 6 grandchildren. Len's hobby is traveling, and when I made contact with him, he had just returned from San Diego to Chile. They reside in Calgary, Alberta. Ed Ferns married Del McBain. In 1967, they had 2 boys and have 5 grandchildren. After graduating from engineering at Red River College, Ed worked in Virden, where he met Del, and eventually became a partner in Progressive Contracting, a construction firm in Surrey, BC. Ed played old-timers hockey for several years in BC and took his retirement in 2003. Ed's interests include golfing, travel, and boating. Ed and Del have retired in the Shuswap Lake area. They also spend their winter weeks at their home in Temecula, California. Lawrence Hyra moved to British Columbia in 1962, shortly after his dad Tom sold the pool room in Neepawa. He married Barbara Hanna in 1969 and had 1 daughter, 1 stepdaughter, and 2 granddaughters. And continued on page 6. Lawrence worked in a sawmill for 47 years and retired in 2012 in Langley, BC. Dennis Foley left Neepawa and the chicken business to start up Trapper John's restaurant in the Polo Park area of Winnipeg. Dennis was involved in a few businesses before winding down 14 years at Rogers Wireless in management. He retired in 2009. He married Linda Ostapovich, and they have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Dennis's hobbies include golf, coin collecting, and antiques. He currently resides in Winnipeg, and they venture out to Mexico for part of each winter. Homer Gill managed 2 teams to provincial championships, 1957-58 Bantam Boys and 1960-61 Bantam Boys. Homer was involved with other teams and kept the school hockey program going after Mr. McCammon and Ruth Farrison left Neepawa. He was also involved in the real estate and insurance business. Homer married Wilma Stepler, and they had 1 child. Homer passed away in 2014. Wayne Griffith left NACI in 1977 to work on the family farm. After they sold the farm, he worked with Tubby Cathcart building the feedlot in Neepawa. In 1980, he headed west to the Lethbridge area. Wayne worked for 17 years there, running one of the farms for a farm management corporation until they sold that unit, and then he moved on to Strome, Alberta, where he managed another farm for the same company. They sold that farm 4 years later, and he moved into Red Deer area to manage yet another farm for the same company. Wayne married Norma Sykes from the Cordova-Franklin area, and they have 2 children and 1 granddaughter. They still live on the farm. Wayne stopped playing hockey and curling about 10 years ago, but still enjoys swimming and golf. Vic Kostanchuk graduated from NACI in 1965 and went into the finance industry. He spent 30 years with the TD Bank in various levels of management, 5 years in Brandon and 25 years in Winnipeg before retiring in 2001. Vic married Janet Forbes and had 4 children and 7 grandchildren. They spend their summers at the cottage in Sandy Hook, just a stone's throw from the golf course, which they take advantage of a couple of times a week. Vic still dabbles in some mortgage broker work, and they live in Charleswood. Cam Smith married Kathy Wolko in 1968, and they had 2 boys and have 3 grandkids. Cam worked for Manitoba Pool Elevators and then in sales with Nabisco Brands Limited for 30 years. He retired in 2003. Cam golfs during the summer and keeps busy attending his grandchildren's sporting activities. The Smiths reside in Winnipeg. John Burney completed his BA and B.Ed in Brandon University with a major in hockey as a Brandon Bobcat. He taught at Selkirk Secondary School while completing his Master's in Education at the University of Manitoba. He moved to Victoria, BC and ran in several marathons, including the Boston, Seattle, Victoria, and Winnipeg marathons. While working in the Ministry of Advanced Education in Victoria, he met and married his wife, Mary Jo, from Winnipeg. They had 4 children and have 2 grandkids, with another one on the way. John became vice president of Northern Lights College and retired after 19 years there. They now live on Vancouver Island and winter in Palm Desert, California. His hobbies are golf, tennis, hiking, and kayaking. Gaynor Vivian attended the University of North Dakota and graduated with a business degree in 1969. Gaynor took over the Vivian Motor Hotel at Neepawa shortly after the death of his father, George, in the mid-70s. He sold the Neepawa business in 2014. He also owns the Keystone Motor Inn at Brandon, and he owned a janitorial supply company in Reno, Nevada from 1988 to 98. And now Gaynor owns the Poplar Ridge Golf Course near Wasagaming, Clear Lake. His hobbies include golf when possible, and he still plays hockey. Gaynor's getaway is to his property in Arizona, and he travels to Mexico when he can. He lives in Brandon, Manitoba. Glenn McLaughlin worked for Dominion Bridge in Winnipeg before heading to Calgary in 1969 to work in the engineering field in the oil patch. Glenn married Penny Ferris, now divorced. He then married Brenda Hayes from Brandon in 2002, He retired in 2009. Glenn has 2 daughters, 2 grandkids, and enjoys camping and golfing in his leisure time. Glenn and Brenda live in Calgary. Jack Tremaine found his way to Red Deer, Alberta, where he worked in the industrial supply industry until he started up his own business, Pumps and Pressure Incorporated, in 1988. He married Sandy Roth and has 3 children and 6 grandchildren. His company has 8 branches across Western Canada and 140 employees, and he was a finalist for Entrepreneur of the Prairies in 2015. Jack enjoys curling, golf, and travels and continues to be involved with his business. They still live in Red Deer. Rick Sparling worked in the middle management with Eaton's, DeFair Furniture, and then Eaton's again, Linens and Things, and finally in sales with Sears, where he retired in 2012. Rick has 1 son from his first marriage and 2 stepchildren and 3 grandchildren from his second wife, the late Barbara Persch. Rick's hobbies are billiards and research and writing. He lives in Winnipeg. Billy Crooks moved from Neepawa to Brandon from 1964 to 67, then on to Minnedosa as an auto mechanic. Bill then moved into working on school buses and went on to become transportation supervisor and mechanic for Rolling River School Division until his retirement in 2001. He married Audrey Stewart, and they have 2 children and 5 grandkids and 1 great-grandchild. Bill played old-timers hockey until 2006 and enjoys hunting and fishing in his retirement. They reside in Minnedosa. Rick Howden joined the RCMP directly after graduating from NACI in 1966. After training, he was posted to Saskatchewan. After retiring from the force after 28 years, he was hired by Corrections Canada and worked as an intelligence officer for 7 years at the Prince Albert Penitentiary. He then retired to Candle Lake, Saskatchewan until 2013, when he moved to Nanu's Bay on Vancouver Island. Rick winters in Indio, California. He has 2 children who live in Alberta. He enjoys good health, plays golf, tennis, and according to him, life is great. Rick played hockey until he was 55, so he's grateful to all the coaches he had growing up in Neepawa, learning the greatest game in the world. Ron Bell lived in Winnipeg for a few years before heading out to the West Coast, where he did some specialized boat building. He specialized in the ferro cement boats, which he partially built inside a room he rented. He also invented a barbecue for boats under his own brand, Force 10. Ron married Lori Moss and had twins. After spending some time in Vancouver, Ron returned to Neepawa, where he ran a kite business out of the old Regent Bowling Alley location. He left Neepawa to be closer to Lori's parents and moved to Chesterville, Ontario. Ron was known all along the West Coast for his sailmaking, which he did for 3 or 4 years after moving back to BC, until he had some health issues and passed away back in 1997. That was a lot of research that Rick Sparling did to find all those people, and a lot of familiar names to many of you, I'm sure. Have a lovely picture that makes you think of summer, and that's thanks to Sonia Patterson. Last July, Sonia took this lovely picture of a mother and baby birds sitting in a nest. And we encourage you to send What's Your Neepawa. We're asking readers to share their pictures, past and present, and that they should be high resolution, 1 megabyte or higher. And they can be something from the past or something very current. We'll do a few sports stories. The hockey season is winding down, but on page 5, Owen Devereaux's story, Natives Pistons series off to impressive start. There is a lot of intrigue developing between the Neepawa natives and the Steinbach Pistons as they split the first two games in the best-of-7 series. Considering the Neepawa natives have been playing playoff hockey for the past 5 weeks, it shouldn't be shocking to anyone that they've gotten pretty good at it. But shock was likely what the Steinbach Pistons were feeling after falling 4-1 to Neepawa in the first game of best-of-7 series on Friday, March 10th at the T.G. Smith Center in Steinbach. The natives came out quickly against the MJHL's top team as Braden Binda scored just over 3 minutes into the first. Later in the first, Captain Regan Buchanan scored on a power play chance. That made it 2-0 for the visiting natives going into the first intermission. In the second period, the natives found themselves dealing with penalties with a 5-minute cross-checking major. While the Pistons had several good chances, they failed to take advantage. Immediately after killing off that penalty, Neepawa took another trip to the box. Fortunately, they were able to keep the Pistons at bay in that power kill as well, with some impressive play from goaltender Tyler Gutenberg. Before the end of the second, the natives converted on a power play of their own with a Nick Schultz tally to make it 3-0 after 2 periods. In the third, Neepawa looked to suppress any chance of a comeback quickly as Buchanan scored another goal just 17 seconds into the period. Steinbach's Danny Pyan ruined the shutout bid later in the third with an unassisted marker, but that was not enough. As Neepawa earned the 4-1 victory, Gutenberg picked up the win and first star of the game with his 32-save night. Pistons bounced back in Game 2. A solid effort in the final 4 minutes of regulation was not enough to make up for 56 minutes of lackluster play from the Neepawa natives as they lost 3-2 to the Steinbach Pistons on Sunday, March 12th. That win evened up the best-of-7 MJHL quarterfinal series at 1 game apiece. In the first period, Steinbach came out aggressively, pressuring native goaltender Tyler Gutenberg on several chances. The score remained 0-0 after 20 minutes. However, as Gutenberg came up with some impressive goal-stealing with saves. Throughout the first and second, the Pistons looked to get under the skin of the Neepawa players with a few extracurriculars after the whistle. That didn't work well for them, though, as they ended up taking several undisciplined penalties in the process. The natives' power play, however, was simply unable to take advantage as Steinbach stymied everything they tried to do with the extra attacker. Neepawa ended the evening 0-7 with the advantage. And that's opportunities to score in a power play. 7 opportunities, no goals. As for the goals, Wyatt Hinson of the Pistons opened up the scoring just 2:16 into the second with a solid wrist shot. That provided Steinbach with a 1-0 lead. The Pistons added a second goal in the period with only a second left in the middle frame. A clean face-off win from Mackenzie Graham allowed Jordan Boczynski to snap a hard shot past Gutenberg as the intermission buzzer sounded. That pushed the lead to 2-0 after 40 minutes and left many of the 1,126 fans in attendance at the Yellowhead Center stunned by this last second turn of events. The majority of the third period saw the Pistons play smart defensive hockey, turning away every opportunity the natives tried to create. At the same time, they continued to push the game into the Neepawa zone, looking for another goal. That persistence paid off at the 9:03 mark with a power play from Ryan Carlson. A few minutes later, Steinbach thought they had a fourth goal, but had it waved off quickly due to goaltender interference on the play. The score remained 3-0, and the Pistons received a penalty on the play. Unfortunately, the ineffective Natives' power play once again came up blank. With just 3:56 left in regulation, Neepawa was finally able to get one past Pistons goaltender Roman Bengert, as Reagan Buchanan notched his first goal of the night and third of the playoffs. Then, with the goalie pulled, Neepawa added another with just 48 seconds left, closing the gap to a lone goal. A glorious last-second comeback was not to be, however, as Steinbeck held on for the 3-2 win. Bengert picked up the win with 20 saves on the night, while Gutenberg had a much busier night, registering 35 saves on the evening. Natives coach Dustin Howden said the Pistons simply took control early and dictated the pace through the game. Steinbeck just gave us a lesson on what playoff hockey is all about. That's a team that's been in the finals the last 2 years, and they're hungry to get there again, stated Howden. We saw what Steinbeck can do on Sunday night. Now we have a series on our hands. Howden stressed that his players will have to take this defeat in stride and learn from it. He added that they'll have to play structured and win the little battles that occur out on the ice every shift, like they did in Game 1 to compete. And Owen has a photograph of Steinbeck's Piston goaltender Roman Bengart makes a save on Reagan Buchanan during the second period on Sunday, March 12th. And noted again that Steinbeck would end the evening with a 3-2 win. And you can see all the people standing in behind the goaltender. In MJHL playoffs, so far the results, Steinbeck won on March 10th, or March 12th, Neepawa won in Steinbeck on March 10th. So the series is tied 1-1. Winkler versus Verdun on March 10th. It was Winkler 5-4 in overtime, and I believe that went to 3 periods of overtime. And March 12th, Winkler 4-1. So Winkler leads that series 2-0. OCN versus Winnipeg Blues. March 10th, it was OCN with a 3-2 victory, and March 11th, the next night, OCN 6-2 over Winnipeg, and OCN leads that series, and they go back up to the PAW for the next 2 games. Selkirk versus Portage. Portage won 3-2 in overtime, and on March 12th, Selkirk won 4-3, and that series is tied. And in the Tiger Hills Hockey League, Farmers eliminated from the THHL semifinal, and again by Owen Devereaux. A last-minute goal from former Swan Valley Stampeder Dalen Creasy has sent the Carberry Plainsmen to the Tiger Hills finals for the second straight year. Creasy's marker lifted Carberry to a 5-4 win over the Neepawa Farmers on Friday, March 10th at the Yellowhead Center. With that victory, the Plainsmen claimed the best-of-7 series 4-1. The game started on a positive note for Carberry as they scored 2 goals within the first 12 minutes of the opening period. Michael Reckdahl and Zenon Zimmer earned those goals. Neepawa answered back, however, as Ward Susky put away a pair before the first intermission to tie it at 2-2. In the second, Ian Kirkowicz added another for the Farmers to give them a 1-point lead heading into the final 20 minutes of regulation. The third period would be a dramatic back and forth between the two clubs. Blaine Fisher scored first for Carberry in a shot that did not cross the goal line. The official, from his vantage point, however, believed that it did and awarded the goal to the Plainsmen. Instead of complaining about the botched call, Neepawa simply took the lead with Matt Lowry's shot less than a minute later. Carberry, however, kicked their effort up a notch in the final 6 minutes, forcing the Farmers back into their own zone. This late aggression paid off. At first, Zimmer added his second of the night to tie things up. Then Creasy put away the winner on a screened shot with only 48 remaining in the third. Neepawa tried to answer back but simply ran out of time. Carberry will find themselves facing last year's league champions, the Killarney Shamrocks, in the THHL final. Killarney moved on by sweeping the Hartney Blues 4-0. The schedule for the best of 7 championship was not released before the press publication deadline. Those details, once made official, will appear in the Neepawa banner. While we're on page 7, there's also the classifieds, and in the coming events, there's a social shower for Chad Susky and Nicole Wilson on March 18th at the Yellowhead Center. The social is from 2 till 4, or the shower is from 2 until 4, and the social is at 9. And that is consider this your invitation to come and celebrate with us. And in memory, December 21st, 1970 to March 18th, 2016. Mark Nelson Cameron. It has been almost a year since you left us, but in so many ways you never really did. You turn up at the most unexpected times. You are so often in our thoughts, and we can feel you on bright, sunny days, loving and missing you every day. Mom, Dad, Denise, and Nora. And there's an in memory for Gordon Moffat, February 16th, 1959 to March 9th, 2012, lovingly remembered by Mom and all his family. And there is one obituary, Arthur Art Wareham. Peacefully with his son at his side, Art Francis Wareham, aged 91 years, passed away on February 24th, 2017 at the Neepawa Hospital. Art is survived by his beloved wife of 67 years, Dorothy, son Richard, Phyllis, brothers Melvin, Lila, Glenn, Ruby, Barry, Hazel, and sister Doreen Sykes, sister-in-law Sheila, special friend Shara Adams, and many nieces and nephews very dear to him. He was predeceased by his parents Edna and Frank Wareham, infant brother Leonard Roy, daughter Beverly, brothers Jack and Gerald, Audrey, brother-in-law Bill, sisters-in-law Betty and Shirley, and daughter-in-law Debbie. A memorial service will take place on Saturday, March 18th at 11 a.m. at the Neepawa Legion. In keeping with Art's wishes, private interment of ashes will take place at a later date. A special thank you to the doctors and staff at Neepawa Hospital, Palliative Care, Home Care, and Country Meadows for their kindness and care shown to Art and his family during his illness. In lieu of flowers, donation to Cancer Care Manitoba can be made in Art's name. White's Funeral Home, Neepawa, in care of arrangements. And there was more material on one of the pages back here. Oh, I know, I didn't show you the picture that Owen was able to get at the farmers' game. Neepawa Farmers and Carberry Plainsmen battled in a Game 5 of the THHL semifinal on March. And there obviously was lots of action in that game. We look forward to next year's season. And on the opinion page, thumbs up, thumbs down, and this one, there's no submission for thumbs up, thumb down, but Rita Friesen poses the question. Just wondering. It was one of those first spring-like evenings. The air was soft, sound carried well. The dogs and I were out walking at the very north end of our town, and the silence was shattered by the chattering of air brakes. Really, it bothered me way out north. What must it sound like to those living right on Highway 16? Wondering if we had signs posted warning of engine retarder usage, I drove to the north, the south, the east, and the west, and there are signs from every direction. So signage isn't the problem, then what is? Do we need more officers patrolling right here in town? Heavier fines or better education for the drivers? The noise is truly offensive. And her question, suggestions? And if you have something that's thumbs up or thumbs down to an individual group or in the community, please send it our way. Submissions must include a name and must be under 100 words. We do want to hear from you. In person at 243 Hamilton Street, by fax 4765073, or by email at news@neepawabanner.com. And on page 2, back to Looking Back, compiled by Cecil Pittman. And the headline is 2007, Neepawa's population at 3,298. And 30 years ago is the photograph. 30 years ago, March 1987, Spring Hill Hog Plant employees are fighting for a new contract. And it shows a picture from the plant from the Neepawa Press archives, and that's 1967, no, 87. I'll read the other things from that year that he had chosen. The $10,000 which is left from last year's spend on development at Lake Irwin will be used in the upcoming summer months. About 100 trees are expected to be planted at Lake Irwin. As well, there will be some beach improvements, dock improvements, and the installation of more recreational facilities, including horseshoes, barbecue pits, and shuffleboard. Dust control on the road will make driving to the lake more pleasant, and a nature path will make the lake more attractive. Let's go way back to 80 years ago, March 12th, 1937. A special treat at the Roxy, San Francisco. This is undoubtedly one of the great pictures of the decade. The earthquake sequence is one of the most awesome spectacular ever seen on the screen, something you'll never forget. Starring Jeanette MacDonald, the star of Rosemarie, and Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy. A notice from the Roxy management. 70 years ago, March 20th, 1947. Mr. Editor, my brother, Pedden Connell, mailed me a marked copy of a recent issue of the Neepawa Press containing a short sketch of the life of Mr. Monington. That article is worth the $5 I'm enclosing, and anytime you print more stories of the great men who pioneered the prairies, I wish you would send them along to me. I quickly ran over the newspaper for news and names I knew, and I suppose it is not strange to say my greatest interest was in the column marked Extracts from the press files. Down the list I went until I came to the 40-year period, which coincided by the school days, and every name was familiar. The last name under the heading for 1897 is Seed Oats for 20 cents per bushel. My memory tells me that the farmers were prosperous at the time. I wonder if the present fight for higher wages and then higher prices gets us any further in the stage of discontent than into the stage of discontent. 60 years ago, Thursday, March 21st, 1957, Walter Greenhall, succeeds Frank Alguire as president of the Neepawa Rotary Club. He was appointed at the meeting Friday, March 15th. And 50 years ago, Friday, March 17th, representatives of Manitoba Telephone System will be calling on Neepawa residents for the next few weeks, beginning Monday, March 20th. Purpose of the canvass, according to the MTS spokesman, is to explain to homeowners and businesses some of the new equipment which will be available to Neepawa residents when dial conversion takes place this year. Construction of the MTS Exchange building here is progressing on schedule, and the anticipated switchover date to dial service is November. Installation of the dial phones in homes and business places will be completed before this date. 40 years ago, Thursday, March 10th, 1977, the Shoal Lake 14-year-olds defeated the defending champion team of Swan Valley to take home top laurels in Neepawa's 1977 Tournament of Champions. The tournament was a great success again this year by all accounts, with fans comparing the hockey caliber to junior league play. Over 2,000 spectators turned out over the weekend to watch the games. Then was our 1987 story about Lake Irwin, and 20 years ago, Monday, March 17th, 1997, the axe has fallen on the Kelwood School, 5 years after the school was put under review for possible closure. Turtle River School Division Superintendent Joe Mudry said that only 18 students and a projected drop in enrollment for the fall term, the division had little choice but to close the school. Every year we found it fit to keep it open another year until now, said Mudry. I am sure parents are disappointed, but enrollment has just dropped too low. And 10 years ago, Monday, March 19th, 2007. The numbers are in. Some Manitoba communities are gaining population, others are maintaining. Some, like Neepawa, are losing population according to the latest statistics released by Statistics Canada last week. The town's population dropped from 3,325 in 2001 to 3,298 in 2006, a 27% loss. The chairman of Economic Development Committee had plenty to say about that. I don't like to sound like a pessimist, Monty Simon said. I'm a realist. I was expecting this. Except for the blip in the 1980s when the town reached a population of 3,425 in 1981, Simon maintains growth has been on a downward spiral for the last 50 years. As far as growing, we have been dying slowly for 50 years, he said. That certainly changed in the last 10 years, hasn't it? And it is only 50 minutes of reading, and if I had kept better track, I would pick up the Neepawa banner where Kathy Jasnick left off, but unfortunately I don't want to reread anything she read. You can still pick up copies of the Neepawa banner out on the boxes until Wednesday, and you can pick up a copy of this week's Neepawa Press and see those pictures and read everything, including all the advertising that makes it possible for the paper to be out there available for you. And we do have some advertising on our NAC TV, but it's mostly in addition to those ads, it's the volunteers and donators who support our TV station. And remember, this Thursday is our talent night, our major fundraiser for the year. It will be live from the Roxy, as well as many of the acts have been pre-recorded. But be watching, I believe it's 7 o'clock on Thursday night, live over the airwaves, and phone in those supports, your pledges to support the group that you have a grandchild or a friend, or you really believe their talent outshines the rest, to help us raise funds to keep the station alive and well and improving. We thank you for your participation by watching. And again, I've said it other times, if there is an issue with some of the programming and you see something that perhaps the show doesn't end or it gets clipped off, some of our material, we aren't aware that it has been shortened when it's been uploaded into our material, and we need to know that because we can't be monitoring it the entire 12 hours. So if you see something amiss and are concerned, just phone us. You can phone us any time of the day or night. Leave your name, your phone number, and the time of the program and which program you're watching and which day, so that we can deal with it and make your programming better. Thank you for tuning in to NACDV, and we'll see you next week.